Shane, it's lovely to meet you.
Yes, nice to be met.
You were comparatively late coming to cricket. When you were a kid, you were more into AFL and tennis. What prompted the switch?
Them writing me a letter saying you're not good enough.
For AFL?
Yeah, and St Kilda Footy Club, I got a letter saying your services are no longer required at the club. We wish you good luck for the future. And I'm like, that's my dream. I was shattered.
How old were you?
18, turning 19, and I was like, okay, I've been to Moorabbin TAFE and done accounting, and that didn't really grab me. I delivered beds for 40 winks, that didn't really grab me. So doing all that, I thought, I delivered pizzas on a Friday night, so I thought, I've got to be good at something. And I realised that everyone is good at something, you've got to find out what you're good at. I was good at bowling leg spin, and so as you say, I was a late developer, but I worked pretty hard to try and be the best version of myself I could be, and I think I got there.
How much do you think the sting of that rejection from St Kilda has driven you throughout your career?
My life, in everything. Being told as an 18-year-old that you're not good enough, you can go two ways, I reckon. You can get determined, which is what I did, or you can sort of say, this is all too hard and blame everyone else and become a victim and just fall off the wayside. I think I know a lot of people that were very good at sport, but got caught up with the wrong people or were told they're not good enough and they couldn't handle that, so they just fell away.
There's a lot of mystery around the art of spin bowling. Tell us a little bit about the kind of practice you had to do to get as good as you were.
Well, I obviously had a gift, which I could spin the ball. That was from Mum and Dad. So maybe some physical attributes. I've got pretty big hands, I've got a big wrist, and I'm quite strong. So I think that helped me. But I think the practice I had was, for instance, I'd put a ball down on the cricket pitch and just bowl and bowl and bowl for hours and hours and hours until I could hit it. And then I'd set myself challenges like, okay, I'm going to hit it 3 times today, and I wouldn't leave till I hit it 3 times. If that took hours, it took hours. If I did it in 20 minutes, okay, let's say do it 4 times tomorrow. I'd put a handkerchief down, I'd do those types of things, and whenever I was sitting at home, I'd have a cricket ball in my hand, and I'd just spin it in my hand all day. And that was to get a feel of how the ball would come out of your hand with the different deliveries you'd bowl. So I really enjoyed that side of things and pushing yourself to see how good you could be.
We're here at the MCG, lots
Yep.
of good memories, of course, but I can't help but think of Boxing Day 2006 when you took your 700th wicket.
Yep.
What sticks most in your memory about that?
That anticipation, the crowd building, the ovation I got when I walked out onto the ground, the delay of the 700th wicket of it not quite happening and then suddenly it happened. The other thing about that was it was so quiet. It was a bit eerie about how quiet it was because I'd stand at the top of a mark and normally you can hear, someone, hey, whatever they were saying. And when you're at the top of the mark, it was suddenly a hush because they thought, is this going to be the ball that's going to take the 700th? And it was an eerie silence of 90,000 people. It was like pretty amazing.
Got him! There it is! Wicket number 700! And they can't catch him. Shane Warne through the gate as Scott Strauss.
But no, the atmosphere, the energy and everything that was here that day was something very special.
I've watched a lot of archive of you preparing for the interview, and one of the things that's massively entertaining is often when you take a wicket, very frequently you see the batsmen turn around and look at the stumps because they can't believe that they are out.
Yeah. I know, I was lucky enough to bamboozle a few, but there's always great satisfaction when you sort of do something. I remember there was a South Africa 94, Brian McMillan, and if you watch the footage, his head nearly snaps off because he turns around so quick to look at the stumps and goes, how did that happen? That just didn't happen. So I'm like you. I love that expression when they just said, that just didn't happen. He didn't do it to me again, did he? So.
What about Mike Gadding's face? Your first ever Ashes game. He's bowled. He just looks completely stunned. Your first ball of your first Ashes. Ball of the century, as they call it.
Yeah, it was, for a leg spinner, it was the perfect leg break.
First ball in Test cricket in England for Shane Warne. And he's done it. He started off with the most beautiful delivery.
Well, that has turned about 2.5 feet. Gadding can't believe his eyes. What a start for Shane Warne.
That was a fluke. I mean, I never did it again. I never bowled anything like that ever. First ball again to take a wicket.
You say, in the book, you say it's great to create uncertainty, but it's really good if you can create a feeling of chaos.
Yeah.
What sort of things would you do to try to give that feeling of chaos?
Well, when you first come on to bowl, you've got to sort of create something that isn't there, which means that you want the batsman to think that it's spinning. So even if it's day 1 or 2 and there's not much spin there, if you can bowl something slow or something into the bowler's foot marks or something just to create a little bit of doubt, you bowl a ball and it hits the middle of their bat and you go, oh! And he goes, mate, it hit the middle. So he's starting to dislike you straight away because it's like, hang on, hit the middle of my bat. So those sort of things, and then someone around the wicket will say, oh, you got no chance to survive here. And so that chaos is suddenly the batsman's mind's racing at 100 mile an hour. There's all these things going on, and the one thing he has to do is watch my hand. So to try and distract him enough and cause that chaos and create chaos and then a bit of magic is to create that doubt in their head so they're not watching my hand. So, because I was pretty easy to pick. People talk about you had all these different deliveries, but most of the good players could pick exactly what you're doing.
Kevin Peterson, in his memoir, writes of you that you had to be careful not to let him get to you psychologically because that's what would destroy you. He had an amazing ability to put you under pressure when you weren't actually under any pressure. If I'd hit a beautiful shot, if I'd slog swept him for a 6, he'd still create a scene. He'd be shouting, oh, like he was that close to getting me out, which would make you think, oh, geez, was I almost out there? I'd smashed him to the stands. How did you learn how to get inside people's heads like that?
Practice. I think I love the contest. I was very competitive. I love being in a contest where it's two of us. It's who's going to win.
You're obviously very good at psyching people out. Did it work on you?
I found it made me dig in a lot more, made me even more determined if someone was sledging me. I don't think I ever got annoyed or it affected me when I played because I used to love it. And I always thought I'd be better than them at it. And so even if people were saying things to me, it used to make me concentrate a little bit more.
Did anybody ever give you a sledge that sticks in your brain because it was just so funny or clever?
Darryl Cullinan was one that was quite funny because I used to rip into him and I loved it because he had no idea what was going on. And it was about 4 years we played against him. He got dropped. 4 years later, he came back to play again, and I was fielding the slips, and I was saying, "Don't you dare get out, Darryl! I've been waiting 4 years for this opportunity to knock you over again." And I kept going for a few overs and didn't let him off. And then in the end, he cracked it. He turned around, he said, "Yeah, it looks like you spent that 4 years eating too." And I said, "That's not bad actually. I looked like I'd swallowed a sheep, so yeah, not bad."
Tell us a bit about Kerry Packer.
He was a wonderful person to me. I think he was a huge character, Kerry Packer. One thing that people, when they talk about Kerry Packer, they probably don't say enough is how charming he was. Even though if he was giving it to you, he was still charming even with it. He also told me, he said, "Son, sell that silver Ferrari. People are going to think you're a big head." And I said, "Oh, yeah, okay." So I said, "What should I buy?" He said, "Just buy a nice Australian car. Go and buy a Holden. Go and buy one." So I did. I went and bought a Holden VK Commodore. I sold my silver Ferrari, but I did buy another one too. So when he asked me the question, "Did you sell your Ferrari?" I said, "Yeah, I did, and I bought a Holden." So I didn't lie to him. I just forgot to add that I bought another Ferrari.
Let me ask you a couple of questions about cricket today. How would you describe the health of Australian cricket at the moment?
I think we're struggling. Pretty ordinary at the moment with Australian cricket. I think, in any business, you need the foundation to be strong. And foundation of Australian cricket has always been grassroots cricket, club cricket, and first-class cricket, Sheffield Shield cricket. To me, I think Cricket Australia at the moment are devaluing Shield cricket. I don't think there's enough first-class cricketers getting into school cricket and inspiring people and talking to young boys and girls to say cricket's a great game and this is why, teaching them techniques. So I'd like to see first-class cricketers getting down to schools. I'd like to see them playing club cricket. I'd like to see international players playing domestic Shield cricket and playing because they love it and they want to give something back to the game. I know it's hard, but they've got to do it. They just have to do it for the longevity and successfulness of Test cricket in Australia, and Australian cricket remains strong.
What was your take on the ball tampering incident in South Africa that ended the captaincy of Steve Smith?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us as Australians were disappointed, we were embarrassed. And I think the wider cricket community thought, Australians don't do that. That's not the way Australians play their sport. They play it hard, they play it tough, they're uncompromising, but they're fair, always been fair. And we always have been in all our sports. So it was really disappointing to see that. They have to earn the respect back of the cricketing public and the Australian public and all the cricket community.
Do you think it revealed any sort of issue around the culture of...
Well, maybe. I'm not close enough to know. But I think I will say this about Steve Smith as captain of the side. Steve Smith is a good person. He made a silly mistake and an error in judgment. I think we're, in this country, sometimes too quick to hang people and just nail them. We cry out for characters and things, and but then we cut people off so quickly as well. And Steve Smith, to me, is a good guy. He's a wonderful captain. He's a great player. He just made a silly mistake, and I don't think the punishment fit the crime. 12-month ban for that, equated to about an $10 million fine. So, I thought they were very, very hard done by, and it was a very harsh penalty. But having said that, we hated it and we didn't like it, and they have to earn our respect back.
You were no stranger during your career to scandal and tabloid attention. Did what was going on in your personal life ever affect what you were able to bring to the pitch?
I think I had more of the attitude is, well, that part of my life's not going great. And when I crossed the line and got out the gate onto the cricket field, it's like, I'm not going to stuff this up. I'm not going to let people down here. And I think that with my determination and my competitiveness, as long as that sort of attitude, I think that's why I never allowed whatever was going on off the field to affect me when I played. I was extra driven, probably.
In the book, you're brutally honest about
Yes.
your life and about yourself. You go to every single personal crisis, all your closest relationships, and nothing that you're dark. Mm-hmm. How nervous were you about talking about all of it?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to sort of relive some things when you've let down your children and let down your family, embarrassed them at times. It's not easy to relive that and to write about that because it hurts. And to hurt my children, who are the most important thing in my life, was really tough. But I think one of the things also with the book is I'm proud of it because all my life I've never pretended to be something I'm not. I've always been straight up, I've always been honest, and people might not like what I say, but I think they respect it. And I think that's why I'm still popular, because if I tried to not take ownership or not put my hand up and say, you know what, I stuffed up, yes I did, and not own that, then I think people say, look at this. But I think the majority of people still like me because I'm human. I do make a few mistakes. I'll probably make a few more.
You write that you've tried to live up to the legend, or as you say it, the myth. What's the stuff about you that you think is the myth?
Well, perception doesn't always equal reality. And I'm not a human headline. And I think people sometimes, not everyone, but a majority of people think they know me. And most people, even if they don't like cricket or whatever, they have an opinion about me. Good, bad, whatever it might be, even if they don't like me, they still talk about me. What
do you think they think?
Well, they think they think you're a wanker. They might think you're an idiot. They think you've got no idea. You think you're dumb. They think all those sorts of things. And just because you make a few mistakes, it doesn't mean you're all of those things. You might make some silly choices and silly mistakes, but that doesn't mean you're an idiot. So I think when I say I've got to live up to the legend, if, say a few of my mates, we go out for a beer just to hang out or let out some steam, you're suddenly in a club and you think everyone's going, oh, Warne, you're a legend, which is awesome, right? It's great. But suddenly you can see them all looking over and you want a beer, let's do some shots. And I go, oh yeah, come on, let's do some. So suddenly you feel like, even though if you don't want to, you sort of feel like you're public property and you don't want to let them down. So it's like, okay, let's do it. And suddenly you have 4 shots with this guy and you have 3 shots with this guy. Hey, you're a legend, high five, which is great. But I would much rather be at home on the couch with a couple of mates having a chat about sport, having a chat about anything, or be with my kids watching a movie.
You say in the book that you've only had 2 serious relationships with your wife Simone and with Elizabeth Hurley. You're single now. What's that like?
Yeah, it's lonely at times. Travelling the world, commentating and, playing poker, doing sponsors things and just being away a lot and hotel rooms. It's good fun, it's great, but it's also lonely at times. And I don't think there's anything better than a great relationship. That's what we all want. Everyone wants a great relationship. So, but if you can't have a great relationship, I think single's the next best choice.
I mean, how do you know as well when you meet somebody that you can trust them?
That's the hardest thing. And sometimes you don't meet people or don't allow people to get to know you because you're scared and worried that they're going to sell a story or do whatever. So, you know, I've tried dating apps, I've tried all those sorts of things too. And most of the time, when I've met someone for a drink or for dinner or anything, it's always been through a friend. They've said, oh, look, I've got this, you know, lovely person. You two will get along great. And I'm a bit like, well, yeah, okay. And then what happens if it's no good straight away? You know, you don't want to be... So I'm not sure about that either. So it's tough too because I don't want children. I don't want any more children. I've got 3 great kids. Now, who knows? My life, I'd never say never, but in my head, I don't really want to... I'm 50 next year. So if I had a child, maybe I'm thinking about it too much, but if I did find someone with a child, I'd be 70 when they're sort of finishing school. And I've sort of done those hard yards of the school run and the drop-offs and the sport on the weekends and all that stuff. So I don't really want to go through that again. As much as I love children, I do. I love them. So it's sort of limit. You can't. Younger people, if you meet, are going to want children, and older people that my age would have children. So then do I say, you know, you fall in love, and then you say, well, let's move in together, move in with me. But my children aren't with me, but I'm raising someone. So it's like a real difficult thing, and maybe I'm overcomplicating it. And, you know, they say it might happen when you least expect it. But I don't know. I'm happy being single, but ideally I'd love to be in a relationship that it makes me happy.
There's a section in your book titled Regrets. Come to think of it, I've had a few.
Yeah.
What are your main regrets?
Look, the regrets is the effect I had on my family, you know, on my children. You know, the effect I had on my children was, you know, I let them down, you know, and I have to live with that for the rest of my life. You know, my ex-wife and I, you know, to have the breakdown of a family is really hard on kids. But I'm proud of the kids they've become, and I'm proud of the father I've become. So that were probably the biggest regrets in my life.
How have you kept such strong relationships with them, given all of those challenges that would have presented?
Honesty with them, you know, and being honest with them about, you know, saying, I'm sorry, I let you down, my mistake. And, you know, they hurt by that, you know, but they've forgiven me, you know, and they understand me, and they want me happy, and they also got to accept who I am. There's no point in them wanting me to be something I'm not. So I think they accept me for who I am. Yes, I embarrass them, and I think part of that's my job as a father to embarrass them. Maybe not the way they, you know, embarrass them in different ways, like wearing bad shorts to the netball or something like that. But, you know, as I said, I'm disappointed with that, but our relationship is great, and I'm so happy for that.
You go through in great detail all of the various scandals that happened over your career, the fine for match fixing.
The 1 or 2.
The diuretic issue,
Yep.
the tabloid paper stuff, the investigation into the Shane Warne Foundation.
Yep.
Of those events, what do you think has been the lowest moment personally for you?
I think when... It was only a short time, which is great, was when people thought I was a drug cheat.
I'd like to say that I'm absolutely devastated and very upset at the committee's decision for suspending me for 12 months, and I will appeal. I feel that I'm a victim of the anti-doping hysteria. I also want to repeat, I have never taken any performance-enhancing drugs, and I never will.
Like, I'm just anti-drugs. I don't do drugs. I've never tried cocaine. I've never tried any of that stuff. And so when people found out that I'd failed a drug test, they thought I'd taken drugs, but really I'd taken a fat pill off my mum. And the reason I never ever blame my mum, ever. And it sort of annoys me that people blame my mum. It wasn't fair. All I said was I got it from my mum, because otherwise people might have thought, oh, diuretic, where'd you get it from? Black market. And I was just being honest about where I got it from and how simple a mistake it can be for anyone. I think the other thing was the foundation. You know, the people on the board, to be accused that you were taking money from the foundation or throwing parties for your friends when we raised over $4 million, and to see the time and the effort that the board put in, that I put in, my own money I put in, to make a difference to children. was very, very hurtful.
I often wonder with professional athletes when you've retired, all the drive you've been talking about, all that competitive instinct. I mean, where does that go?
Yeah, it's hard to replace. Hard to replace that. I've been lucky. Poker is super competitive. It's a game of skill, and I've always loved the strategic side of sport and the tactical side, and getting into the brain and the mind of people. So sitting down at a table of 10 people and trying to work out who's who, and trying to beat this guy and trying to outthink someone, it gets me.
In your dreams at night, do you ever dream that you're still playing cricket?
No, my dreams don't involve cricket. I can promise you.
Quick, cut.
No, my dreams are, there's no cricket in which I play. I think I miss the camaraderie. I think I miss just the silliness of being in a team, the banter, travelling around in a bus, and just the silly pranks and all those sorts of things. I miss that. I don't necessarily miss the playing so much.
You write in the book about going to see a psychologist to try to help you become a better person. And one of the things he made you do was to imagine your own obituary. If you're really lucky, you're one of the lucky people in life, you might have another 30 years of life left. What do you want to do with that time?
Yeah, I encourage anyone, if they've got any issues whatsoever, to please go and see someone, because it's important to go and talk to someone. I was a bit like, don't need that. And then when I started dating Elizabeth, and I wanted to become a better person, not just because of her, but because of the kids. And I just said, what? I'm sick of the rubbish. I want to be better, and I wanted to understand why things happened. And I got Jeremy Snape, who's become a great friend. And, one of the first things we did, we had a week in a hotel room, basically. He said, it's going to be brutal. I said, bring it. Let's go. I want to understand this. And the first question, he said, you got to write this. He said, write your own obituary. I went, right. And I had a few goes at it. And I didn't like, at that stage, I wasn't happy with who I am. And I felt I needed to change. I needed to do a few things and be better. And I've tried, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job. That was, I think it was 8 years ago now, 7 or 8 years ago. As you say, maybe I'm getting a little bit wiser. Maybe I'm maturing. But I know I'm happy with who I am, and I understand myself. So that's half the battle. And it was a very worthwhile week.
Shane, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me.